infrastructure, when you have, what they first do is they cut off food supply, they cut off water supply. I switched location in my house. So yes, this is a different sport. Yeah, the topic I want to talk about today is related to real estate. I want to talk about the importance of transport infrastructure to human civilization and development, and also to real estate. Hi, is my voice? Why is my voice sounding this deep? My voice is not this deep now. Or when I enter the REM, and I go to my high pitch, go back to my high pitch. If you look at most neighborhoods, like if you actually study the origin of most neighborhoods in Nigeria and the world at large, one thing you would observe is that most of these neighborhoods started as trade routes, more like traffic routes. Like I said, I'm talking about infrastructure. So I'm talking about transport infrastructure and how important it is for human development. And this particular talk is poured from a statistic I saw about how the slowest of roads can be found in the poorest countries of the world. So the statistic was trying to say that when you have poor infrastructure, when you have poor road infrastructure, when you have poor transport infrastructure, poverty is inevitable. And from that statistics, Africa had the highest number of speed bumps in the world. Africa, one other continent, which I think that should be part of South America, Peru, part of just the whole Spaniard axis. You know, from the study of urban economics, you would see that cities came to be because two things happened. Technology advancement in terms of transportation, and this I'm not talking out loud. I just hope my audio will come out good. Technology infrastructure and agricultural surplus were the two things that made the existence of city possible. You know, the difference between urban areas, a city is another word you can use to describe an urban center. An urban center being a portion of land that has more persons, a small portion of land that has more persons staying in it, as against a rural area which has a large expanse of land with fewer persons staying in it. Now, urban centers have more expensive lands, rural areas doesn't. So which makes things like agriculture possible in rural centers as against urban centers. Because of technological advancements, it was now possible for fewer persons to engage in agriculture. So you don't need everybody engaging in agriculture. These fewer persons can then feed every other person that stays in the city. So people could then specialize in non-agricultural occupation, because farmers can then have surplus. You know, before the surplus came, farming was so that it was more of subsistence farming, not commercial agriculture. Subsistence farming in the sense that you plant and rear animals that is enough for your household, but then commercialized or mechanized agriculture now brought about surplus, agricultural surplus. So your farm produces more than you need, more than you require to survive. So that surplus, you sell it to other people that are not engaged in agriculture. So now, because this phenomenon became possible, people could then specialize in other non-agricultural areas, thereby living away, thereby staying far from rural centers, thereby staying far from their farms, or staying far from farm settlements. That is how cities now came to exist, because you didn't need a large expanse of land for anything. So now people can then decide to be bankers, can then decide to be doctors, to be other things. And then when they get money from this other occupation, they can then exchange that money for agricultural produce. So now, because of transportation and because of agricultural surplus, people can then move away from, I'm reiterating this so that you get to understand the concept I'm trying to lay down. Now, transportation being one of the reasons why city exists, if not utilized properly, will make those who stay in cities, will make life unlivable for people. I remember one time I saw a trending video of a gridlock around the Edo-Auchi expressway. Farm produce couldn't come all the way from the north to down here in the west because of that bad portion of road. Several traders that trade in these perishables had massive loss that period, because these items are perishable, and if they don't, we don't have good storage system here in Nigeria. So I think there's this statistics I saw, more than half of what farmers produce in their farm gets spoiled before it gets to the market. So this is a drawback as against why cities exist. Once food can't get to the city, a city starts declining. And cities are the hub of real estate. Cities are where real estate thrives the most. And the moment food can't get to the city via our transport system, cities start declining. People wouldn't see the need to specialize anymore in non-agricultural occupation, and then they will have to go back to agriculture, making other sectors not to thrive. Because of the whole Japa syndromes, Japa phenomenon, key skill requirements that banks need became scarce, to the extent that different banks had to now start investing in academy for information for IT personnel. That is another gist. I'm just trying to open your mind so that you get to understand what I'm talking about. That is why I am scared for what the whole banditry is doing. I have a podcast. I have a teaching I did, how our cities may ultimately fall to banditry. These bandits won't come to the city. These bandits won't have to carry their guns and come to these cities. All they will do is just to stop the flow of food to the cities. In the past, when kings besiege a city, what they first do is they cut off food supply, they cut off water supply, and then when these city dwellers exhaust the food they have inside, they will have no option than to open their doors. And then these kings that besieged you will not gain access into your walls. I'm trying to let you see that this banditry and everything, they are strategic with hitting food. And if food is not secured, that will be the fall of many cities. That's to say that the bandits don't have to come to the city. You will eventually go to them in the bush when hunger sets in. I remember I was part of the Kano Kaduna Railway project, and sincerely, when the bandits attacked one of the rail lines, I just knew these persons were, because it takes a level of intelligence to know this thing I'm talking about. When you hit the transportation infrastructure of a nation, you are hitting the nation at the most important point. You are hitting the nation at the most critical of points. When you hit the infrastructure, when you hit the transportation infrastructure of that nation. You know, there's this, I was reading something in an economics textbook, and the author said something that most problems, most wars that have happened in the world happen as a result of, can be traced to the fact that, okay, let me retrace myself so that I don't get to lose the substance of what I'm trying to talk about. They said most fights that have happened in the world can be traced to control with regards to oil and energy. And what does these two things power? They power our machines, and these machines are the key factors when it comes to industry and when it comes to trade. I don't think I'll get to talk for long today because I've not said much. and I've exhausted the points I laid down here. So let me just fill in. I'm actually done with today's teaching. So this is me, I want you to comment. Would you say my teachings are complex? Like if you've listened to some of my videos, would you say I sound too complex? Because I am doing my best to break things down to the minimum, to the barest of minimum, but I don't know what's wrong with me. Like when I call names, when I call different names of different persons I've listened to or I've read, do I sound too out of this world? I actually want your feedback on this, so that and most of the things I say from memory. Like today is the first time I'm jotting down notes. This is like the first time I'm teaching from a note, because I don't know, I just like being spontaneous. I like being spontaneous, and because when it comes out fresh, I like it coming out fresh. I really don't like premeditated teaching. Like, it's not like I don't think about what to teach. It's not like I don't, but maybe over time, with more practice and with more videos that I get to do, I would understand how to make things work better. But I just like it. I like hearing them for the very first time when I'm saying them. I like it being the very first time I'm hearing it. Let it not be like I've talked about it before and then I don't want it to be like I'm just regurgitating things I've talked about before, like things I've reasoned about. I like them coming out fresh. That is why I do my videos the way I do them. But maybe with time I'll get to learn how to use notes to teach. Yes, maybe let me just talk about because I'm actually done with today's teaching. There's nothing else to say. So I'm just using the remaining time to, let me just kill the remaining time. Yeah, I know your data is burning. My name is Dominic Ejike. I grew up in Zamfara State. I'm the fifth of 6 children. 3 boys, 3 girls. I studied estate management, University of Nigeria. Then I moved to Lagos and I started working for a real estate company. My specialty, now you know real estate is broad. You have different aspects of real estate. You have those that are into construction purely, and even within the construction phase, you have people that do cost management, quantity surveyors. You have the project management that see that timeline and cost is being adhered to. After the whole construction process, you now have those that try to sell this property, and we call those people agents. That is those that try to dispose the property either by sales or by letting. We call these people estate agents. They will have people, property managers, those that see to it that the investment doesn't lose its value. So you can give them your property, they'll manage it, both the interest, the physical aspect of it, and also the investment aspect of it, making sure that your rent comes as at when due. That you know some tenants are wicked. Some tenants you should know what I say. Some tenants are wicked. You know, some tenants don't see paying rent as a problem. Like when they can't pay rent, they don't see it as a problem. I remember Pastor Banky saying something that one man went to meet his landlord and said he's having problems. That is why he can't pay his rent. And the landlord told him, it's because you don't see your rent as a problem, so that is why you have not paid it. Yeah, because you're not seeing your rent as a problem, that's why you're not paying it. So that is why you need to put that middleman, because these persons can come and they will use emotions on you. Because see, yeah, there are those that actually can't. Maybe something happened and they can't pay. They don't have the rent to pay at that moment. But there are those that are actually, they just want to test your patience. The money is there, but maybe they fixed it in one account and the money is yielding interest, and then they'll tell you that they don't have the money. Or there are those that are building their own house somewhere and they are staying in your own, using the rent they ought to have been paying you to be building their own house. And they don't see that anything. So that is why you need property managers, people that will be interfacing with these people, because these guys are professionals. They see, property managers can say when a prospective tenant can't pay more than after the first day that you start having, because eviction, there's something I learned about eviction is not when the tenant enters your property. Eviction can even start before the tenant moves into your property. Like evicting a tenant starts from when the tenant even moves into your property, because it is better you spot a bad tenant from the onset than for that tenant to move into your property and then you can't evict the tenant, because the Nigerian law system is for the tenant to be sincere. Even the US real estate law is for the tenant as against a landlord. Do you know, there's one of my boss said something that to evict a tenant from his property in the US, he even had to pay that tenant for that tenant to leave his property. Just imagine that. In Nigeria, you just come, you break the door, you remove the roof, and the tenant will have no other option than to leave. But in the US, if you try that, you can go to jail for it. Hey, 19 minutes, I guess this is where we'll close. This is where we end.